When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome bought spices, so they might go and anoint Jesus. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there is the place they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Jesus knew that after all that work, all that suffering, those women were just going to run away from the tomb that morning all afraid and say nothing to anyone about anything. I have to figure he'd be rolling over in his grave. But of course that's the problem, isn't it? He wasn't in his grave to begin with. Couldn't even be there for a full weekend. Couldn't give consideration to those poor women who only wanted to take care of his lifeless and broken body. As Mark would tell him, Jesus was too hyperactive to even hang around to greet the women himself. He sent a spokesperson to take care of his personal appearances. No wonder the women were afraid. There was somebody inside of the tomb, somebody who was talking, somebody alive and awake. You don't expect somebody hanging around for a chat in some dead guy's tomb. Obviously, sometime along the way, these women told somebody about what they saw. Because they told somebody else, who told somebody else, who told somebody else, because finally, somebody told us. Like that little whispering game we played when we were kids, the one where somebody whispers a line into one person's ear, who whispers it to the next, and then to the next, and to the next. And by the time the message gets to the last person, it's usually way different from when it started. I don't doubt that this story might have in our time some differences. Differences from the way that it happened at that time. But luckily the four Gospels tell something of different versions of the resurrection story, or I might wonder who conspired together to make such an astounding and unexpected event all too understandable, all too uniform. You know the old saying, the devil is in the details. So I'm just trying the basics of an understanding of Easter morning. That's why Mark's story of Jesus' resurrection is by far my favorite. Why? Because the women were scared speechless. That's why. Thank goodness somebody had the sense to know that you have to be some 3 sheets to the wind to casually accept the news that someone you saw dead a day or 2 ago couldn't even stay that way long enough to make it to his own funeral. I know I'm making some light of it now, but frankly, it's because it's so darn serious. The reason we gather on Easter Sunday as church is not because the weather has turned nice, or that spring has returned, or to have some kind of family reunion. It's to say that Jesus rose from